Hi, I'm Lars, and this is my land. What you're about to see is one chapter out of 10 in my upcoming Live Aid video, which has been in the works for a few months now and been delayed for a bunch of reasons. Some I've shared and some I'm not remotely willing to discuss on camera. But now I am finally free and able to work on this with full gusto, and I'm ready to share some of the hard work that I've put into this baby over the past few months. I've also been collaborating with Angel from the channel As We Go Along with Angel for chapter 6 and maybe a little in chapter 4. I will link his channel below. Go check him out. I am so joyfully, wistfully, hopefully, prayerfully, anticipating wrapping this project and moving forward. Before we go back to my land, please like, subscribe, and comment if you're nasty. Please consider supporting me at patreon.com/larsland. That's where you're going to find a lot more Beatles stuff and versions of these videos, sneaky leaks with lots of interviews and music and extra stuff. And of course, I have to mention that I made a 7-hour video on the TV show Lost that I worked on for so long that if I don't mention it in every video, I don't know what will happen. I've just had to do that. And I have this sneaking suspicion that TV and movies will be making an appearance in Larsland in 2026. But until then, this is the Blacklist. This video has 8 million disclaimers. I promise that they mostly matter, but this one might be the most important. I do not plan on doing a video on the Anthology 4 release. A live stream probably, but I don't have time. I've got too much to do. No fan mail, I'm sorry, but I don't have time. Okay, I'm sorry. By the way, there's no such thing as continuity in this video. It's filmed over several months, different haircuts, different glasses, different lipstick. People at our end, there must be something we can do. I put up a community post about this video and got some crap, and that's why I put in this disclaimer right now. Because this is one chapter of 10, though more than 1/10 of the video upcoming, I have concerns that you may walk away at the end of this video blaming the wrong person. Bob Geldof is a very divisive figure, and I'm not writing this story to endorse any one person's character or denounce them as a person either. These are all human beings with shades of gray. The real enemy here is Mengistu and the regimes that caused, perpetuated, and elongated the famine in Africa in 1982 to 1985, not rock stars. When you watch the whole video, I contextualize it a lot better, but I'm really concerned that there's going to be a hate campaign when it's just a lot bigger than that. And let me expound on that disclaimer. A reminder, apparently, that this is 1/10 of the entire Live Aid video. If you want to talk about other things that Bob Geldof went through and did for this project, if you want to talk about the legacy today behind Live Aid, what he did and how it worked, this is not the video for that. So hold your horses, and you're going to have to watch the whole long video. But this is a story from Black artists that needs to stand on its own. It deserves to stand on its own. I don't want to hear anyone saying, Bob Geldof isn't racist. Not once do I say that. Not once do any of the Black artists say that. The Black artists wanted representation. That is not the same as saying you are racist. These are two different things. Don't hear what I didn't say. Don't hear what they didn't say. If you want to talk about the Live Aid project in full, I promise you, everything that you want to talk about will be covered in more depth, and you'll learn more than you ever thought you would learn. But that video isn't ready yet, and it is coming. Time to listen. Let these people talk. Chapter 5. The Blacklist. Band-Aid invited one Black group to sing on Do They Know It's Christmas. It was cool in the gang. Bob Geldof said in a documentary that whoever decided to invite the group had a good idea. Geldof didn't think it was that good of an idea. He ignored the chart-topping Black artists in the UK to perform for Live Aid, setting his sights on other white groups. Many of those groups were broken up, retired, or on the outs. Rather than invite Black musicians, Band Aid held a press conference in June 1985 naming 50 musicians, 4 of which were black, and 1 hadn't been approached yet. That was Stevie Wonder, who refused to play, skeptical of motives and hesitant of being tokenized. Not one of those 4 were African. While Geldof set his sights on the We Are the World set, he remained defensive and aggressive toward black publications in the UK who wondered, rightfully, about representation. The US promoters of Live Aid say black acts took a vote against performing with a conspiratorial tone, though they've lightened up on this bit in recent years. Never do they expound on why black musicians in the US might be hesitant to participate. All the while, black reggae artists in the UK are coming together to make their own charity single. Rather than thanking God that it's not them suffering tonight, they're saying, let's make Africa green again. We can do it if we try. But nobody tells that story. I could not find this for so long that I got to the point where I was like, maybe I made that up. Maybe I have to rewrite my intro, but I found it.
Thrilled to see Cool and the gang, whoever asked them to come.
So we're all in Bananarama.
It felt very good singing the chorus because the chorus is like a great choir. And a choir is inspiration, motivation, especially for a great cause.
Part 1. The Concert for Bangladesh. George Harrison's Blueprint. Concert for Bangladesh opens with George Harrison alone, a single spotlight. He blushed during the 10-minute standing ovation, his first time on stage in public since 1966. Then he introduces the first performers, his friends, Ravi Shankar, to play Indian music. He asks everyone to give it a good shot. George Harrison biographer Graham Thompson wrote, Harrison wanted the musical content to reflect in some way on the cause. The subtext made clear that this was not a poor relation coming to America with its begging bowl, but rather a culturally rich region being torn to shreds. And everyone did give it a good shot. The crowd clapped as they were doing tuning, and Ravi said,
"Thank you. If you appreciate the tuning so much, I hope you'll enjoy the playing more."
And if the crowd was merely tolerating the Indian musicians, they did a pretty good job. They sat quietly and they clapped graciously. As far as I know, they didn't smoke. But before the show gets rocking in earnest, they stop with an intermission that includes a graphic Dutch film telling the reality of the plight in Bangladesh. George says they had a good film showing exactly what was happening and they wouldn't let us have it for some political reasons. So we had to try and find a film because I didn't want the audience to be a crazy rock and roll audience. I wanted them to realize what it was all about. There were no African artists playing at Live Aid. The CBC special showing the Ethiopian famine ran during David Bowie's set. It wasn't a decision made by the Live Aid organizers.
And I think I cut my set short a bit so that they could use the video.
This was Bowie's call. He forfeited a song to show the real. At every reasonable place to amplify African voices, Bob Geldof, Band Aid, and the Live Aid organizers did not do that.
As this was a concert for famine relief in Africa, perhaps 1 or 2 Africans, maybe valid and valuable additions to the lineup. Oh, no. Can't have any of that.
Part 2, the contrast. Conflicting stories.
We dug into it and found, as I said, there were interest groups who were calling artists, actually telling them not to participate.
The images that we saw of the Ethiopian famine in 1984, I think the press reported it as biblical, and it stung us as a community.
Bob spent a good amount of time, still does, explaining that he wanted the most successful, popular artists at the top of the charts, making the most cash to be at Live Aid. Black artists weren't really included in this, particularly on the UK side. Yeah, they weren't invited. The British reggae artist Famine Appeal team, also known as BRAFA or BRAFA team, had been hearing whisperings of a famine. Not from the news, but from their friends in Africa. They had the same idea as Bob and Midge. It would only make sense for the UK reggae artists to be on the Christmas single. but they weren't invited. And they'd been singing about Africa their whole careers, their whole lives. But since they weren't, they decided to do their own thing.
So is Daddy there?
Yeah.
Well,
Daddy,
you know, at the core of him is a Rastafarian, isn't it? He's a Rastafarian. So the core of him was Africa, because that was his spiritual home. So, you know, the core of him was, well, we need to help. We need to help. How can we help?
I hadn't heard of BRAFA. I had heard Let's Make Africa Green Again, but I didn't know the association. So when I was looking into this section, it was September 27th, I stumbled upon a BBC article and a Guardian article about the real story behind BRAFA, and now a historical site in Hackney Square called BRAFA Square, and I saw the name Leon Leifer. If you don't know Leon Leifer, well, you should. He's a reggae legend, a UK musician legend. He's a member of the Black Stones, and he is the founding father of BRAFA. This was something that was on his heart from the jump, and I saw his name in these articles, and I saw someone write, this friendly man with braided hair is talking from his porch, and I wondered, we were always singing about Africa, so we thought, let's put our money where our mouth is. Leifer, a friendly 72-year-old with braided gray hair, says over tea in his front room in Leighton, East London. I wonder if I could get him. Okay, anyway, I will send him an email in a minute, or I will try to find an email for him. And I found his email. I harassed him. He was wondering, who is this random person? I had to introduce myself as a journalist, which I am, but Beatles YouTuber doesn't quite have the same, jig to it. I wound up sending him a 3-minute voice memo explaining exactly who I was and that I was kind of worth my salt, and these were the things that I felt I needed to cover in this extensive Live Aid project. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I reached out to Leon. If this guy gets back to me, we'll be in really good shape. And Leon Leifer, living legend, was willing to get on the phone with me. Hi, Leon.
Hi, speaking. Thank you for calling. Yes, we'd love to do the interview. Not a problem.
He and his friend Emma Winch. Emma's title is Head of Cultural Transformation of the Hackney Council. However, she also has called herself Leon's partner in crime, and Leon calls her a friend who has been the coordinator, collaborator, the driving force behind getting BRAFA Square set up. Got on the phone with me and they spoke with me for an hour, and it was amazing, and we've stayed in touch, and I just want to impart on you as we go into this conversation. Of course, this doesn't fall under typical Lars Lambeadle content, but this is perhaps more important than that. This man deserves a lot of respect. I want everyone to give him the respect and the dignity and the reverence that this conversation deserves. Additionally, because I was on my phone and because we were just having a chat, the audio isn't great during some parts of the phone calls that I have recorded. There will be captions on screen. I know that I try to do my very best to make everything listenable, but I want to make everything very clear and make sure that Leon and Emma are completely understood in full capacity. Back to Lars from earlier today. That was scripted and sounded smart. And I am so grateful for Leon and Emma to take the time to talk with me. I wish the Live Aid organizers had taken the time to talk with him as well. Leon is going to tell you his story with his own words, but before he does, I'm going to read from Dylan Jones' The 80s, Bob Geldof's Is That It?, and Andy Kershaw's No Off Switch, among a few other publications, demonstrating the party line, if you please. And while I read it, Leon and other members of BRAFA from various interviews and a mini documentary will be cut in telling their side. It's quite a contrast. Live Aid was the world's biggest variety show. There was such a weird mix of acts on the bill, it was almost like a circus. The whole idea had been to create a bill full of the most popular acts in the world. They didn't necessarily have to be that good, they just had to be popular.
And when we say Band-Aid didn't invite us. It wasn't based because of our complexion is different. It was based on there was a lot of Afro-Caribbean artists in the international charts, in the British top of the pops, Aswad, Janet Kay, Trevor Walters. These people are selling millions of records.
Yeah.
You know, and and then Island was a major company.
Put a pin in that. By the time the bulk of the roster was announced, Geldof started to be criticized because there weren't as many black acts on the bill, and was accused of treating the event in a traditionally colonial fashion. And yet, many black acts simply weren't interested in appearing. We were criticized endlessly for not having enough black acts on the bill, but nobody wanted to do it, said Harvey Goldsmith. We couldn't find any acts that were either available or that wanted to do it. Honestly, we tried every major black act, both here in the UK and in the US, and none of them were interested.
Why did we need to make Africa green again? Excuse the terminology, but it was always being done by a lot of white people. We as black people never really actually got the opportunity or was invited, let's put it that way, to do anything or to make a contribution.
It was embarrassing. Some even wanted money. It's almost as if there's like a history of exploitation of black people being encouraged to do things that make white people look good, and it winds up not working out well. There's something there. Stevie Wonder eventually agreed to appear, but then he phoned up and said, "I'm not going to be the token black on the show." By the way, I particularly enjoy Bob's version of Stevie's story and his autobiography. The difference is deafening here. From Is That It? By Bob Geldof. The press conferences were not without their problems, however, especially in New York, where a certain section of the press attacked the lineup on the grounds that it contained few black acts. I was furious, as I had gone out of my way to ask all the big-name black acts in the States. Diana Ross, Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, Prince, and had no response. I had asked Quincy Jones to help, and he put 2 people from his office onto the problem. They had come up with very little, though not from want of trying. I said, "I've asked them all. Perhaps you should address the question not to me, but to them." From this point, the Live Aid carousel of chaos and confusion went into overdrive. Prince had just retired, and it would be embarrassing to change his mind a month later. The fastest comeback in history. Could he do a video? Okay. Stevie says no, yes, no, yes. And we have Stevie Wonder, we announced. The next day, I got an irate call. "This is Epnet Abner. Who told you to announce Stevie Wonder?" Stevie? No, he didn't. Who are you? I'm involved with his management. How did you contact him? Through Keith Harris, who spoke to him at 11 o'clock last night. I'll call you back. I rang Keith. Keith, some guy called Epnet Abner says Stevie said no. No, he said yes. He's going to do it. He decided. Can you ring Abner? Epnet Abner rang me. Bob, we're in sympathy with your position, but Stevie's finishing an album and can't interrupt it. He really wants to do it, but I've insisted he continue on this project. We're about 6 months overdue, and Motown are going crazy. I'm sure you understand, so please issue a press statement to that effect, would you? Okay, I said in tones of deep depression. This afternoon, Bob, or we'll have to issue our own. I didn't. They rang back, and I still didn't. Maybe they did. I don't know. I didn't care. The only one who actually ended up doing anything was Lionel Richie, because his manager really got what we were doing, and he ended up doing We Are the World with Michael Jackson. The others, no, they were just not interested. We just kept saying, without being rude, you're always harping on that you don't get recognition within the industry, and... okay. What do we say to that? What do we say to that? Nothing. We just kept saying, without being rude. By the way, you can't say this without being rude. You're always harping on that you don't get recognition within the industry and so on, but you're not getting involved. We just went through the cards and we tried everyone. It's always hard to get acts to commit to do things like this because they've got to give up their time, services, whatever. You're juggling balls and then you're hoping that the balls don't drop, but it was extremely disappointing.
I couldn't understand why all those people who were concerned about the issue at USA for Africa, where were they?
So when the news came on now, and Bob Geldof came on and reported to the news, it was world news. And I thought to myself, my gosh,
I had the same idea.
Someone thinking the same idea.
Which was great of Bob Geldof, but then there was lack of representation of black people and black artists that were here, particularly black British artists that were here.
We were concerned. We definitely felt that we were not a part of Thatcher's New Britain. We certainly got a sense that it was okay to be racist.
This is from Bob Geldof's autobiography that came out in 1987. This was written with his voice recordings being transcribed and then contextualized and rewritten with his co-author Paul Vallely. So it's not a ghostwriter necessarily, but ordering things through. He was just talking kind of off the top of his head, and then they went and cleaned it up while he's remembering these stories. Bob didn't keep a diary during this time. He only has notes from an appointment book. I've read this at least 6 times. It doesn't get easier anytime I read this, and it is so much more uncomfortable when I read it out loud. The first time I read it out loud, I peaked the mic really bad, but I'll just show you what I did while I was reading. Oh God, I hate reading this. Don't talk to me about how oppressed you are, you whining shit. Okay, I hate you. Don't talk to me about how oppressed you are, you whining shit, or how concerned you are for Africa. When did you do anything for the motherland? Okay. I'm just gonna go over here. Okay. Yeah, got super uncomfy, but we'll make it through this time like a professional.
This was a global event. Very good reasons why it should be happening. But in terms of what Bob Geldof was doing, it's coming from a good place, but it's coming from a very kind of white paternalistic place, and we were unhappy with that.
It was a curious feeling to be called racist in the middle of all this. In January, when I had been in Ethiopia, I was traveling with Jesse Jackson's wife in an old Hercules. One of her party was the director of AfriCare, a Black American aid agency. He told me he could rarely get Black sportsmen or Black entertainment stars to do anything for them. He said they had little or no social responsibility or conscience. They would mouth the rhetoric, but rarely understood or took interest in the issues.
Everyone had their own reason. Politically speaking, philosophically speaking, who knows? I mean, I didn't have a chance to meet with Mike or Stevie. I made a conscious decision at the very last minute to get on the plane and go because I just felt it was necessary to do it.
Now in England, I had apparently offended the young Black activist crowd by my lack of invitation to any Black English or West Indian bands. This was seized on by the Soul Brothers in the music press, who have done little or nothing for English Black bands. I would say that English Black bands would disagree with that.
Who suggests there should be more Black performers on the bill at Wembley gets short shrift.
And I don't care if they're orange, luminous pink or green. The object is to stop people dying.
If there had been a Black British artist, I'd have been on my knees begging. There simply wasn't.
I explained that the purpose of Live Aid was to raise money. If a band sold 1 million records, it meant more people would watch than if they sold 1,000. It meant more contributed, more people lived.
But there were some Black artists, as I've said at the time, who were big.
What about so-and-so? Yes, but they weren't selling records. We'd have got whoever was selling millions. This is an entirely practical, logical endeavor. How do we stop as many people dying as humanly possible?
Them Black people dying, man, said one screaming down the phone in broad Jamaican, a second earlier having sworn at me in pure Cockney. So what? I don't care if they're orange-skinned and live in Iceland. The fact they're Black is irrelevant. What is relevant is they're dying needlessly. Who's the racist here? We want representation. Of what? There aren't any world-famous million-selling reggae bands.
There was a lot of Afro-Caribbean artists in the international charts, in the British top of the pops, as what Janet Kay, Trevor Walters, these people are selling millions of records.
Aswad was big in the British charts.
Big in the British charts. Also Trevor Walters.
Yeah, he had a #1.
Right, you know, and reggae music was on the front line, big time.
If Bob Marley were alive, I'd be on my knees begging him to play, but no one's heard of Aswad outside of the universities. Put them on telly and people will switch it off, and that's here. God knows what would happen in America or India or Africa for that matter. If I can find it, I'm going to insert this little clip of someone seeing themselves, their culture represented on TV, and we can just put that on there. It'll just make my point for me, and if not, then I'll delete this.
Today is something unique. We've never seen westernized country before. The American people say, "Hi, India." And people like me, oh my God, they are looking to me. You know, oh yeah, they talk about India, you know.
There's nothing wrong with Aswad or Steel Pulse, but you just have to face it. If they don't sell many records, if I have a choice between Steel Pulse or Wham on this show, I'll take Wham.
We were calling it the Global Jukebox. We wanted the biggest bands doing their biggest songs, not track 4, side 2 of the 5th album, the hits, because it was nothing to do with my choice or Harvey's choice or anyone's choice. It was how many records did you sell? 10 million, you're on. You know, Van Morrison, personal hero, not selling enough, you know, or any of the other bands that, why wasn't so-and-so on? Why not enough record sales, you know? So if we had hundreds of millions of record sales throughout the day, hundreds of millions would watch. And that's in effect what happened.
You're just putting your friends on. You just want to sell records, you racist, Irish bastard. If this was my personal choice of music, 75% of the bands would not be on. As for selling records, these bands need to sell more records or get more publicity like a hole in the head. Except the Boomtown Rats, I gotta tell you, you're the ones who want that. And don't fucking call me a racist. I know plenty about that, you fascist. Don't talk to me about how oppressed you are, you whining shit. This is the part I got really uncomfortable about. You whining shit, or how concerned you are for Africa. When did you do anything for the motherland? By the way, Irish folks, especially in the UK, is dealt with a lot of racism, but over here too. If it's all these million-selling bands, why is your band on it then? Screamed my socially conscious-stricken tormentor as a final parting shot. Because it's my ball, and I'm going home with it if I can't play, I answered.
Somehow we weren't part of what was going on in the country. You know, of course, a lot of people felt pissed off. A lot of people felt as though, you know, fuck you. You know, here it goes again.
Black Voice, the black community newspaper mainly known for the excitable nature of its reporting and journalists, whatever that means, was calling Live Aid the racist event of a decade. The thing that bothered me was that these same people had never done a story on the famine, nor were they interested in doing anything to help those people. He had time to go, before publishing this book, to go look back and see if they had, because they had. I have clips of it. They were only interested in the very thing they accused others of. I was still opposed to tokenism as I had been during the punk period. I wasn't interested in Uncle Tomery having a black man there because he was black. Who cares? I wasn't interested in having an African there because he was African. He could have been outer Mongolian for all I cared if he sold 1 million records. I was interested in pragmatics. I was interested in making money to prevent people dying. Several of those concerned citizens complained to the GLC, who were slightly embarrassed as they supported us, but also actively supported black rights. Two things can be true, and they shouldn't have to be embarrassed because you're the one who's putting them in that position. So you can care about the people being affected by the famine in Africa, and you can care about black rights, and many people, including me, would say that those things go hand in hand. Black rights in Africa are the same as black rights in the UK, in Ireland, in the United States. At the expense of seeming like that one friend who's too woke, let me clarify real quick. The issues plaguing these people in different countries and continents are different and complex, but black rights matter in all of these places, and supporting black rights in one place really means that you should be supporting black rights in every place, no matter how that makes your ego feel. I'm saying this to myself too. I had also just agreed to do something for their equal rights campaign, so it seemed a bit odd for them to be calling me up and passing on a complaint of racism. Would you help if the black bands put together their own concert, they asked. Absolutely. I heard no more. Well, I think Leon has something to say about that because his memory is a little different. When David Bailey went to Africa to take pictures for his book, which has already raised 200,000 pounds for Band-Aid, he flew in the hold of a cargo plane, paid for all of his living and traveling expenses, gave every moment of his time for free. At the launch of his book in London, a woman from the caring journal Black Voice attacked him for squandering money that could have gone to Ethiopia, assuming he'd traveled first class and, I suppose, swinged around the desert at Band-Aid's expense. This attitude appalled, but did not surprise me. Why did he feel the need to include that last paragraph? Outside of mentioning that David Bailey's book raised 200,000 pounds for Band-Aid, he just put that in there to poke at the Black Voice, an independent outlet for and by Black voices, for minorities. You just mentioned, Bob, how you have been the subject of racism, and I've read his book. He has. Why would you punch down to your brother also struggling against racism? Wouldn't you want unity? Wouldn't you want to come together? That is more important, right? Than making a point of something you disagree with or whatever. You can punch up wherever you want, okay? Punch up at Margaret Thatcher, punch up at the VAT, punch up at the Soviets in the US using Ethiopians' unstable government as pawns in their Cold War. Punch up at Mengistu. Do not punch down at the Black Voice. Do not punch down at Black folks in the UK, in the US, and do not say that you don't care if there's an African on stage. You should, because an African needs to be able to say, we're okay with how you're using our images and our suffering here. Okay. It's their faces and it's their corpses that are being shown across the world to more than 1 billion people. At least one singer from that continent could have been present to showcase their music. But maybe that's just me. And those are neatly carved out 18-minute slots that got shortened for some people down to 4 minutes. And I do wish that you could have split down 4 minutes for some UK reggae artists that desperately wanted to help their African brothers and sisters.
That's me there. That's Mr. Tony Terry Douglas. Mr. Leon Leifer actually gave me a call and said him and Gene Ronda were planning on doing a charity song for Africa. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, come on, no one wants to see people dying and suffering.
Apologies for the noises in the background. It's just part of the day right now. Okay, so this is from Andy Kershaw, who was a Live Aid presenter, his autobiography, No Off Switch. Kershaw, unlike Geldof, unlike Jones, he's been pretty openly, vocally critical of Live Aid, and he does talk about Live 8 here, which we don't get into in this video really. Kershaw says that he doesn't remember very much from the day of Live Aid, which is completely normal. What a blur. And he says that he didn't watch any of the footage until the 25th anniversary with his children in July 2010. Trevor Dan reminded him that he did not want to do it. You were very uncomfortable with it and skeptical of its motives. This I did recall, although I was not, at that stage, yet an evangelist for Africa, and hadn't already set foot there, never mind developed a love and obsession for the continent, I could sense something was not quite right. I did not, however, take the position of some that it was just a cynical career move by Bob Geldof to keep himself in the public eye after the Boomtown Rats stopped having hits. Although the revelations in the 25 years documentary about Geldof's ruthless treatment of his Band-Aid partner, Midge Ure, added weight to those accusations of his personal ambition. I did feel that Band-Aid, of which Live Aid was the climax, was aptly named a sticking plaster being slapped over a horrendous, deep wound. Not only did it fail fail to confront the fundamental causes of the Ethiopian famine and never bothered to recognize there were any. And it was, as a gesture, however beneficial its goal, smug in its assumption that a bunch of largely lamentable rock and pop floozies was capable of making a difference without tackling simultaneously underlying problems. Sure, there was an urgency to get Ethiopians fed, but I felt that Live Aid, like Band-Aid, was dealing only with symptoms and not even interested in the disease. That unwillingness to understand was to trivialize Ethiopia's misery, a disaster from the pages of the Old Testament that needed nothing more than relief by a modern miracle and a sprinkle of pop music magic. This I found irritating, shallow, sanctimonious, and self-satisfied. Musically, Live Aid was to be entirely predictable and boring. As they were wheeled out, or rather bullied, by Geldof into playing, it became clear that this was another parade for the same old rock aristocracy in a concert for Africa, organized by someone who, while advertising his concern for and sympathy with the continent, didn't see fit to celebrate or dignify the place by including on the Live Aid bill a single African performer. There were, meanwhile, hundreds of guitarists in the beer halls of Zimbabwe or Zaire, and dozens of others dotted along the Niger who could wipe the floor with Eric Clapton. In this respect, Geldof didn't learn. Or, more likely, didn't care. 20 years later, at the time of Live 8, he again invited no African stars to share the stage in Hyde Park with their European and American counterparts, and on equal terms. When he faced an outcry over that, he made the fiasco worse by announcing a concert at the Eden Project to accommodate African artists. In an op-ed piece for The Independent, I was compelled to write, I thought apartheid was dead. The Africa Calling concert at the Eden Project compounds the insults to the continent Geldof purports to help, tossing Africans the crumbs from the table of Europe's rock aristocracy. I am coming, reluctantly, to the conclusion that Live 8 is as much to do with Geldof showing off his ability to push around presidents and prime ministers as with pointing out the potential of Africa. Indeed, Geldof appears not to be interested in Africa's strengths, only in Africa on its knees. He might as well put up signs around the lanes leading to the Eden Project saying, "Grateful darkies this way." It's pretty blatant, it's pretty blunt, but Kershaw was directly involved in Live Aid, and these are his views of this. I've noticed that a lot of white people, like including me, including Andy, are more comfortable being extremely blunt about how they feel about Bob Geldof and Live Aid. Whereas I've noticed in the BRAFA documentary, Remembering BRAFA, they're a lot more gracious than I am, and I appreciate them being so kind. I don't have to be kind. It's quite the contrast. Now let's go hear from those kind, loving people. Part 3, Let's Make Africa Green Again. The story of BRAFA. A list of facty facts. BRAFA was formed in late 1984 by Leon Leifer and a few of his friends. On February 24th, 1985, 200 musicians and singers and school children gathered together to record Let's Make Africa Green Again. The single was written by Leon Leifer, Tony Douglas, Gene Rondo, and Faye Addison. Artists included, and apologies in advance for inevitable mispronunciations, Aswad, The Blackstones, Dennis Brown, Jaw Bunny, Janet Kay, Winston Reedy, Trevor Walters, Christine McNabb, The Pioneers, Ken Parker, Pauline Catlin, Junior English, Trevor Hartley, Trevor Jones, Byron Otis, Tantan, or Tauntaun, B.B. Seaton, Bevan Matubi, Cliff St. Louis, Lloyd Clark, Michael Bamey Rose, Keith Drummond, Danny Ray, Frankie Davis, Ginger Williams, Glenn Soley, Gordon Batiste, Honey Boy, Jaw Warrior, John Bailey, Joy Mack, Me and You, Mike Brooks, Mikey Dredd, Neville Blackstones, Owen Isaacs, Panchita La Touche, Sweet Distortion, Chosen Few, Undivided Roots, Winston Curtis, Winston Fergus, and members of the public who sang on the backing track. The single was released in April 1985 by Island Records, and all proceeds went to Save the Children for long-term developments and projects in famine-affected areas of Africa. After the success of the single, the group decided to hold an open-air benefit concert on the bank holiday of May 26, 1986 in Shoreditch Park. More than 10,000 people attended. 10,000 is the reported number of attendees at the concert. However, there's some debate amongst the people who were actually there.
It was much more than 10,000.
Was
but I think that the media, tried to suppress it.
Was it that popular?
Well, up here, from Kingston Road at the top to the bottom to Shoreditch, to every is people. It's the biggest they ever had in this area.
And money raised, again, benefited Save the Children. This benefit show raised more than £8,000.
We're all glad to see this. I think this is absolutely brilliant because it shows that, yes, we do want to help our own. When they did, the Band-Aid, you couldn't see us. But when we came together, you could see, yes, there are artists in this community that can do the same works. And it was done. And here we are, and give thanks for that.
Let's hear from Leon himself and Emma Winch, of course. Captions will be on screen. Hi, Leon.
Hi, speaking. Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
We would be interested to let the world know more and more about BRAFA and what we did. Band-Aid did great. We have no objection.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we wasn't called upon to be part of it, so we had to did our own thing, I'm proud of what was done then.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always embraced it where many of the artists who done it probably came there and done it for a good reason. This thing is a major thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great achievement. So I would love for the Zoom to set up.
There were a couple things when I first got into this project that kind of rankled with me because, as I said, I've been into the Beatles, so I knew about Concert for Bangladesh. I'd done a project about that. I feel like in the interviews I've seen with you guys, you've been extremely gracious about the situation. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, okay. Now, the main thing, it wasn't about ego or anything like that.
Right.
It was about to raise funds to give to Save the Children Fund, or what connection to try and save these people, because no rainfall, the starving start, nothing can grow and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what Bob Geldof and Mid-Year and all these singers done was fantastic, phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But our point was that Bob Geldof made no effort to contact any of the mainstream African Caribbean artists that was out there on their own force of selling millions of records.
Right.
So the world could look at that concert and think that we didn't want to go, we didn't care, but we weren't invited. Yeah, but yes, we'd love to do the interview, not a problem.
Okay, wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, so another thing, during this conversation, Jack, my cat, was getting really involved and he was bumping this mic arm, which is cheap as hell, okay? And sometimes I bump it too, so you'll hear, sorry, or like, okay? And it's not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to bump into it either, but I talk with my hands and I'm getting better at it. But sorry, so this is the bump warning. There have been more disclaimers on this video. Even I am like, this is a lot. I guess let's go back to, late 1984, early 1985, when after Do They Know It's Christmas comes out, or when you guys were kind of realizing, hey, we should get involved in doing something because the representation isn't there for Black voices.
Well, we were a month before Band-Aid was announced to the public. There is a newspaper that's still ongoing in the UK by the name of Voice. The Voice.
Okay.
And I knew the CEO and other people in that newspaper. And the idea that I have was to get a concert going on at the Albert Hall or at the famous football ground QPR.
Mm-hmm.
So not financially bound in that way, I went to the Voice newspaper in Hackney, Wells Street, and spoke to The gentleman now is deceased. Spoke to him and Philip Fraser. Tell them of my idea of gathering all the UK's artists that I knew personally, from the reggae world, from the calypsonian world, and whoever want to be part of it, to
Right.
join in and do this charity thing. Why we were before Band-Aid? Because in Ethiopia there's a place called Shashamali land, and a lot of Jamaican who are Rastafari, they retreat repatriation to live there. And sometimes some of them would come back to London and the rumor would be spreading that there's starvation in Ethiopia. That was long before the news media. So that's how I got to hear about it. Whether
Right.
it was true then or not, I wasn't sure. But I made a move. I'm a very soft-hearted person. Went to The Voice and they didn't have the money to sponsor a show at the Albert Hall or the football ground. But they gave myself and a friend of mine, Just Scarcher, they gave the facility for us to use the telephone and fax machine to call a few people, entrepreneur who's in the business, food, grocery, and all kinds of different shops. And about 20 of them turn up the next week on a Tuesday. And I told them my idea about raising funds. And one of the reasons reggae music, musicians and singers always singing about Africa and the homeland and repatriation. And I thought, this is where we've got to put the money at our mouth and do something. So when these people came on board, none of them was musicians. It was just people who have finance, could do better than most. And they all agreed that my idea was good. But after a week, I had to retire because they were going to give me brain hemorrhage. This one is saying, let's go to Barclays Bank and open an account and people can put money in. Let's go to NatWest. Let's go to Light. And I said, yeah, but that's going to take years to collect. People are dropping dead now. We need to do that. And after 2 weeks, to be honest with you, I walked away from it. I felt my body heavier than myself. So when I got home, I told my girlfriend then, now my wife, Faye, I said, I can't take this. No, man, I can't take it. So I walked away from it. I'd say maybe a month later, 3 weeks to a month later, here comes the BBC World News and Independent TV, Bob Geldof and Midge with the same exact idea as if they were a fly on the wall. But it's just to me, maybe they're thinking the same thing as me and we don't know each other. So I take it as a coincidence and I think it is a great thing.
Right.
You know, their platform was humongous. It was like me going into the ring to fight Mike Tyson. They should have a coffin outside the ring waiting for me. You know?
Right.
So, yeah, you know, so when they come on the TV announce it, I gave up. But it was my girlfriend said, look, anything is better than nothing. Do what you can.
Right.
So that's when I took the initiative to think deep. Who can I trust? I was scared because when you do charity, most people say it's not charity. They want to take the money for themselves.
Yeah, they're exploiting.
And I don't want my mom to hear news like that and drop down and dead, you know. So I knew of a singer called Gene Ronda. His real name is Gene Lara. Now, Gene Ronda was a lead singer of a famous group called Undivided, not to be mixed up with Divided Roots. They came later. Undivided featured people like Jabunny in drums, Gene Ronda in lead, and the famous Rodrigo Rico, who played the trombone with the specials. Ba, 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 ba.
Yeah.
He was part of that. He was part of that lineup. So I knew Gene Ronda from a longer time, but not as somebody as a friend where I go to visit him or he come to visit me. And there was a local community that he was part of with a famous person called Charles, Mr. Collins. I know his right name. Now, Mr. Collins was famous as part of protesting because his son was one of the 13 who got burnt up in the New Cross fire in the UK. 13 dead and nothing said. That was the thing. So I knew Mr. Collins. To me, he was very eccentric in many ways.
Right.
So him and Gene Ronda, a.k.a. Gene Lara, they were running a center called The Roots Roots, ROOTS, for the local communities, youngsters to go to that community. What happened, it was also famous for a lot of Jamaicans who just coming into the country, young generation, where Scotland Yard stole the name Yardie. Yardie used to mean somebody who just arrived from Jamaica. Just like the word gay used to mean happy and blah, blah, but it means something else now.
Right.
So the word Yardie, Scotland Yard use it to pin on the ones who deal in gangsters.
Sorry, Leon, to interrupt, but I just love how racism is so racist. I search Yardie, UK, and it starts up with a Wikipedia definition saying that it's typically of the Jamaican diaspora. And then the second thing is a result that says UK's emerging crime problem. And then the first sentence from the Google search. So you don't click on it, but if you're just looking, just not digging, you'll see a Jamaican male, 18 to 35, usually unemployed, but involved in the music scene. So if you see that, you're like, Black men in the UK, 18 to 35, unemployed musicians, they're gangsters, they're criminals. Oh, it's rich. It's so rich. Okay.
The yard is, but it never meant gangsters before. So there was a lot of these kind of people. It was their daily to hang around the Roots Pool Center on the road, and it was famous and all that kind of thing. The reason I was beating around the bush to try and explain so you
take your time. Yeah.
Understand clearly is that that's where I went and told Jean Ronda down by Roots School of an idea that sounds a bit crazy in my head, having no money to do a project like that. It's a humongous project looking back at it. And I said to Jeannie, I think the whole reggae industry should get together and make a charity record for starving people of Ethiopia. By that time now, Bob Geldof things was putting together. And we had big artists in the British charts like Trevor Walters in the top 10, selling millions of records. We had a group called Aswad. They were in the charts as well. Dennis Brown, the Pioneers, Janet Kay, my group, the Black Stones, Junior English. Well, we'll come to that in a moment. So all these people was known internationally in the UK, but Bob Geldof and his team didn't call any one of us. So we had to, at that point, do what we could do, right? So David Rodigan announced it in Capital Radio. Tony Williams, he announced it in BBC London. Ranking this, she announced it. Erdl White, BBC, and many others from Wales and all over announced this thing. Eddie Grant, famous from the group called he gave his studio completely free day and night, and he gave a 24-track tape. I must say, I did call Island for them to take up the whole project off my hand and do it, but they turned me down based on the fact that they said that UB40 and the Jamaican vocal group, the Pioneers of Let You Hear Be Yeah, I've already represent the reggae industry by doing one of the old Pioneers hit, Starvation. Starvation coming towards the nation. And I said, it's fine that they do that, every penny count, but two artists don't represent the reggae industry. So if they want to come and join us, fine. If they don't, fine. Right. I would at that point turn the thing down. So we went on without them. So when Aswad turned up at the studio to record on the day, the road in front of Eddie Grant's studio was blocked off with people. No traffic couldn't pass. Inside the studio was ram-packed. And when the Aswad manager, I think his name is Mikey Campbell, came and saw that, Aswad was signed to Island, you see. He then phoned Island, whoever he spoke to, I don't know, and said, look, all of who's anybody from the UK is here at Eddie Grant's studio. Island need to get on board. So from that point, we leave Eddie Grant's studio, and for the rest of the time, for weeks, days and weeks, we were at Island Shelter Studio, which I think Emma will come across some footage from 40 years ago. I was looking at these footage recently, I didn't even recognize myself. I was so skinny. I was saying, "Oh, that's so and so." When the camera come up, I said, "Oh my God, that's me." You know what I mean? Where we slept in the studio, a lot of people contribute and so on. But you see, the coordinating team was Gene Randa, Jabunny, which his name was Donaldson.
Ray Carlos. Courtney Carr.
What is Courtney Carr? That's the man. So it's Gene Randa, Courtney Carr, and there's a Zimbabwean student who I met many years. I bring in him as the secretary. You have to listen to how to pronounce his name. You have to roll your tongue. Raymond Dengaran Beasy.
Okay.
Yeah. Dengaran Beasy. It's on the album. And then we had Russell Roy. He was the bass player with the band called Black Slate. They had a big hit called Amigo. But by then, he was the one who played the bass on the track. Who else have I forgotten? My wife, Faye Addison. That's her family name. Is Faye Addison Leifer. She was one of the coordinator, Invisible One. And she wrote the word in the song, Rain, Food for Africa. That's in the verse. Okay, Tony Douglas, he's deceased. He had one song. The whole song didn't sound good together. Jeannie had one song. All of it didn't sound together. So we took parts from each of the lyrics, including input lyrics from myself. And we came up with Let's Make Africa Green Again, meaning to make the place fertile so things can grow.
Right.
You know, and Ken Kendricks is now Kareem. He played the rhythm guitar, the chord movement of the thing. Now, let me go from top and tell you the musicians and singers. Singers, I should say. First, it was Trevor Walters, followed by the Black Stones, followed by Winston Reedy, followed by Dennis Brown, followed by the famous Pioneers, followed by 15, 16, and 17. That was a girl vocal group that they named by their age. They never thought that the next year they're going to get old.
Just stick with it, yeah.
And then a very popular group called Brown Sugar. One of the members of Brown Sugar went on to join a group called Soul to Soul, and they had a multi-million seller. Her name is Karen Wheeler.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And Ken Parker was a famous singer from Jamaica, Treasure Island, Studio One, iconic studio. Keith Drummond, who died recently, they went to his night last night. I couldn't make it.
Oh.
They sang the song Amigo, 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 Amigo. So he was the lead singer with the group called Black Slate, and he passed away a few weeks. They don't know most of these people, you know. So Island Record released this record, Let's Make Africa Green Again. We were interviewed by...
Sorry, my cat is getting involved in this call now, so we've got a little bit of a feline interruption. If you see... Sorry, keep going.
I like animals. Ask him what you think about what I'm saying.
He's interested. He wants to hear more.
Yeah, so when the record got released, Island took it on board and did everything that they could. The international press, Sun, Daily Mirror, Daily Telegraph, Guardian, Independent, News of the World, all of these papers an input, but what they did, could be put on a postage stamp.
Yeah.
Now the papers from the Caribbean, like the Jamaican Gleaner, give front page and center spread. The West Indies World, the Black Echo, which we've got copies of it, Hackney Museum.
Sorry.
All the giants in the music industry come forward to donate in whatever way to help Gene Randa and the team that we put together to make this record happen. We have one and two little thing on the main news, but it was like taking a picture, the flash, and it's finished.
Yeah.
You know, so what Bob Geldof did was fantastic, phenomenal, raising millions and millions and millions of pounds to these people, which was great and fantastic. But by even doing so, some of the artists on that Band-Aid team, it helped to regenerate their sales of music album. So it's like you rub my back, I rub your back. We didn't have that spotlight.
What Leon is about to talk about here is how BRAFA Square was named, or how the changing of the name of BRAFA Square came about. After the death of George Floyd, there were riots and uproar, obviously all over the United States. People started demanding change. They were tired of seeing Confederate soldiers and generals decorated and commemorated in our museums and on our statues, the names of our streets and the names of our parks. And this was echoed again in the UK. The borough of Hackney decided to change the name of their current park, and the local citizens submitted about 25 names, and one of those was BRAFA Square. Citizens went and voted on which name they chose to represent their community, and BRAFA was chosen. Leon talks about how such a dark and difficult thing brought along some light, and sometimes absolute devastation and violence brings about social change and rocks a community, across the world, to say, hey, we're going to honor good history. We're going to remember what these Black reggae artists did in the 1,000,000 to 1 versus 1,000,000 to 20 to help starving Ethiopians.
And thanks to the borough of Hackney, it caused somebody to die in America. That policeman, they claim, put his knee on the gentleman's neck and he died. Floyd?
Yes, George Floyd. Yeah.
Yes, so what that happened around the world, including the UK, it had a domino effect where people was upset that they got out, and there was protests, friendly, and there was unfriendly protests.
Yeah.
Pulling down statue of slave masters who they didn't know was slave masters and colonial and all that. So the borough of Hackney's got a condensed of people from all generation, different culture, Greek, Polish, you name it, from the Caribbean, from Africa. So they decide, listen, let's highlight what some of these people is doing that is significant and worthwhile so the world can see Hackney's doing good. And so they had about 25 names and they circulated, and it come down to 4 names, and they vote. It could have been for another name to us, and is abbreviation really. BRAFA means British Reggae Artist Farming Appeal. This is the New Britannia Centre now, which there was an old one, they knocked it down and they built a new one. Emma can tell you all about that. And they wanted to name the centre after one of these significant names in the borough of Hackney. And we were fortunate that name came up, BRAFA. I mean, we didn't do it to get no reward, because most of these people who appeared in this record don't even remember it to mention it in their interview when they're doing it until it came back into the highlight.
Right.
But it was my baby going to the execution chamber, so I've always had that love and remembered for it. And people like yourself is coming from nowhere to say, what is this BRAFA thing? That's been happening with the BBC. That's been happening with The Guardian. Is it The Guardian?
Yeah.
It's been happening with, what's the TV person, famous lady here in London?
Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah.
Fiona Bruce.
Fiona Bruce. Bruce? Yeah. It's not Bruce. Fiona Bruce. She's famous for doing political program, and all kinds of things. Apart from being stunning looking, she's got a fantastic brain in her. And she, through Emma, Emma's done phenomenal work, and she has something to say. I'm going to stop, let she talk, and explain the other piece to you, how it came about.
I can't explain it better than you, but...
No, I explained the part how I came. Then when you meet how the barrow came about.
There's this really nice booklet that is available here, and I just wanted to look through it. It talks more about the BRAFA Square and their origin story here on lovehackney.uk/BRAFA-square. Everything will be linked below here. There's just some really nice photos. Here's Leon here. Family members of Jean Lara, just lots of really nice things that you can take a look and get some more behind the scenes background here. So I want everyone to be able to access that, of course. But here is this really nice booklet, and it tells a little bit more about the naming process. So I'm interrupting Leon and Emma here, but poor Emma, I've been blowing her up looking for pronunciations and spellings and all kinds of stuff. So she has been extremely gracious with me. In 2019, Hackney Archives and Hackney Museum conducted research to support the naming of the new public square outside Britannia Leisure Centre. The names put forward celebrated important people, places, and events linked to the history of Hoxton and Shoreditch and included suggestions from the local residents. The long list was shortlisted to 4 by the mayor and put to a public vote. The other names that made the shortlist were, it's either Bradlaugh or Bradloff. I'm not quite sure on here. Bradloff Square. It's Bradlaugh. Thank you, Emma. This poor woman just dealing with me going crazy right now. After Charles Bradlaugh, a political activist born in Hoxton in 1833. After Haggerston residents who signed the Humble Petition in 1900 to 1910, asking for women to be given the right to vote in parliamentary elections. In Mackay Square, after Claude Mackay, the socialist and poet who lived in London from 1919 to 1921 and was a regular at the International Socialist Club in Shoreditch. There was support for all the names put forward, but in the end, BRAFA Square was the people's favorite. A permanent information panel installed in the square shares the story and photographs of the recording studio day, the fundraising campaign, and benefit concert. The Let's Make Africa Green Again melody and a timeline charting the history are inscribed on the steel tree and bench surrounds and serve as a permanent reminder of the hugely impactful but almost forgotten history of the BRAFA fundraising campaign.
Yeah, so Leon and I were trying to find a name for, after the George Floyd murder, Hackney launched, we've been working on trying to address the names of roads and parks all over Hackney, which is a really diverse place, that are named after slave owners.
Yeah.
And we did a big piece of work to find new names for these different spaces. And one of the community panel, a guy called Ngoma Bishop, he said to me, this isn't suitable for this project, but can you remember, I can remember this amazing thing happening in Shoreditch, and I can't remember it, but I'll come back to you. Anyway, he didn't mention it again, but then I was given the role of finding a new name for a brand new public square in Shoreditch next to the park, which we were redeveloping. And I said to him, you mentioned Shoreditch. What happened in Shoreditch? Remember? And then he remembered the BRAFA story, but only pieces of it. He remembers there was a huge concert here that day and there were people as far as you could see, but he couldn't remember anything other than it was Leon that did it. And he put me in touch with Leon. This is during COVID. And Leon...
No, sorry to interrupt. I said, they're always blaming me.
Exactly. It was Leon. So one day I messaged Leon and said, hello, I'm Emma, let's talk. And then Leon and I basically spoke for 2 years without meeting each other because it was COVID.
Right.
So to try and pull the story together, because although everyone remembers
a little bit when you called me first, remember when you told me what you was, I put the phone down because that was some joke or something.
Yeah. It took a little while to explain it, but it's been such a long time. It was a lot to kind of remember and recall. We couldn't find any evidence because lots of people kind of hadn't kept anything from, and there was this massive story, and we were like, how are we going to tell this massive story?
Jack! Oh my gosh. Sorry, my cat is going crazy.
That's okay. So then, because my role was in the museum and archives, we started, once they opened up again, we started looking through the newspapers. We found adverts for it. We found the front page of the Hackney Gazette with a photograph of the tent and all these people, and they said 10,000 people were there. So we started to find little bits of evidence.
Right.
The BBC found footage of TV presenters saying, and now on this music show, we're going to show you the new single from the British reggae artist Famine Appeal Team. So we've got bits of footage like that.
Right.
But we've never been able to find the footage of the actual gig in the park, which is a real shame. We're still looking. We've got researchers out there still looking today. to try and find that evidence. But that's why there's not we haven't made kind of a documentary film about it.
Mm-hmm.
We made a documentary film about the naming of the square, of the amazing people in the story, but we haven't been able to kind of show very much footage from the time because we're only finding bits and pieces here and there. And that's kind of where we're at with it. With the TV companies are really interested in it, but unless we've got that footage to show.
Right.
So what we have got, as Leon mentioned, we've got footage inside Island Studios of them mixing the records, that kind of thing, but we don't have the footage of a concert or photos, which is a real shame.
When I looked at after 40 years, seeing myself in the Island Studio and saying that's somebody else, that was weird. You know what I mean? Go on, Emma.
And then next week, Leon's going to Hackney Museum, which is where I used to work. I don't work there now. But he's going to Hackney Museum because we've written a whole set of teachers' resources using the story of BRAFA to teach children about African Caribbean music and culture in Hackney.
Wow.
And so across Hackney schools, they're going to be teaching about the BRAFA movement, playing the song, all of that thing.
Right.
Really, really great. So the reason why it's an important part of Hackney's history is because we basically had our own version of Live Aid in Hackney, organised by people with a really deep connection to Africa who wanted to raise money. And it was way before you saw it on the telly and were like, where's all the black people? Why aren't they here? Like minutes before. It was his idea before that happened. So it wasn't, I don't want to speak for you, Leon, but initially it wasn't a reaction to kind of, we want to do our own Live Aid. Initially, it was we want to help.
Right.
That's and right. Then and that's the idea that they had to help. And then afterwards, it's unfortunate that they didn't choose artists that were representative or give a platform to all these amazing artists that we had, like Leon said, were number one artists and, really famous artists. And what's really interesting is that it was only last year that people actually started talking about Live Aid and how problematic it was.
Yeah.
Singing about wanting to help people in Africa and all of that. It was only really people in circles like us were talking about it.
Right.
But it was only became a public kind of debate when, was it Ed Sheeran and Fuse, the big musicians over here, started talking about it.
Yeah.
And then it's gone quiet again.
Well, Fuse is how I kind of stumbled upon this. The Fuse ODG interview is actually going to take a pretty prominent position in chapter chapter 9. It's already done. I just forgot which one it was. And I've been researching Live Aid, and this is something that has been deemed I've read like a dozen books now, and I've done all kinds of studies and read all kinds of stuff, and it's called the Black issue. Like, that's what it's called. And so when I was looking into Fuse's interview, I saw, okay, well, there's BRAFA. And when I clicked on the song, I was like, oh, I know this song. I've heard this song like a bunch of times, but I didn't know the story behind it. And, a lot of the lyrics with Do They Know That It's Christmas has always really set poorly with me. And then we're listening to, Let's Make Africa Green Again, where it's this really uplifting of like, we're making this green again. This is where this is a green, fertile land. This isn't something where it's like, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. Like, it's not.
It's awful.
It really is. It really is.
Sorry to interrupt. Because
No, go ahead.
You said something, it clicked something in my mind, memory. We met Princess Anne because she wanted to meet us for the effort that we've done.
Wow.
With the results that we have, we've done great as far as she's concerned. So we're at the headquarters of Save the Children Fund. Princess Anne is a patriot for Save the Children Fund. I don't know if she still is. But there's a Arthur Q circle with people lining up, a few hundred people in the building where, royalties, they walk around and they're like, you don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
And they move on to the next one. You're not to touch or anything. But when Princess Anne came to us, we're a bit of a rebel still, When I'm laughing because it was so happy and funny. When she came to us, people expect us to walk on, but she stopped. So she was interested in Let's Make Africa Green Again, what exactly we're talking about. But Jean Randa was saying to make the land fertile, and Princess Anne interrupted and said, well, the thing with Ethiopia, it's kind of flat and the water don't stay, so the land gets dry. She said, it's not like Jamaica that have a lot of sinkholes. So I interrupt. I said, what do you know about Jamaica? She goes, I know more about it than you, mate. Waiting, like, what is she talking about? Elroy, who was deceased, was flirting with her, you know. He liked her. She looked around and just looked back and talked. She goes, okay, bye now. And she went on.
This is kind of cute because many of the people in BRAFA, including Leon, were actually born in Jamaica and then moved over to the UK. So it's kind of like, what do you know about Jamaica? That's my home.
So when everything was done, there was samples of food like biscuit that Save the Children Fund has displayed on a massive table. And I went over there to look, or they said we should go and taste it and everything. And there was two elderly people, like could be our grandmother. You could tell they were good looking, but in old age, the wrinkles was all around their face. And one of them caught my attention, and I'm going to try to speak there because, and what would you be doing here? So I said, I'm part of a group that we made a record called Let's Make Africa Green Again. And what is that? I said, reggae. And they said, what is that? I said, it's a form of gender.
Yeah.
They came with Princess Anne.
Yeah.
You know? And then Princess Anne came over, probably to protect them from me. And the table with loads of biscuit on it. She just grabbed it up like some commoner, not like a royalty, you know?
Yeah.
In her mouth and go, she goes, it's nice, taste it. But to be honest, I'm a bit scornful. And I didn't want to people coughing and things like that.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I didn't taste any, and Princess Anne forced me to put one of the biscuit in my mouth, and I thought I was gonna die. Not in a rude way, you know. We became friends at that moment, though I never heard from her again. I only see her on TV. But our cameraman who take pictures, who follow her everywhere, he ended up taking a photo session for an album called Colors of Love by the Blackstones.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, so BRAFA always been on my mind every day unless something else come into the picture. So when they say 40 and all these years, I don't know where it went, you know? And it's as fresh as ever because here you from USA, somebody from Africa, somebody from the Caribbean, people from the United Kingdom, someone like Emma Winch and her crew and team at the Borough highlight this in a way that it can't be unlighted because it's like water running and gets its own base and it reach you. Where are you now?
I'm in the US.
No, I don't know anybody. My sister lives in Kansas City.
That's where I was born. That's where I'm from. Get away. Yeah, that's where I was born. Yeah.
Yeah, my sister lived there. She's a surgeon, retired.
Wow.
And I have sister in Ohio, in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here I am. If we were looking to get this publicized, we would know where to find anybody in your state. And you found us. So I am very pleased, and Emma is very pleased. I'm sure we left a lot of things out. Don't forget my group is spelled the Blackstones. And we're still going.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Right. And you got our website.
Yes.
And please give all the credit to Emma Winch, please, and her team.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous.
No,
I've just helped get the story out. I've just helped tell the story. I didn't do any of the work. You did all the work.
Right. You were the engine and you were the wheel, and we were the body, and we were disappeared into infinity. And if it wasn't that gentleman name, what's his name? I can't say his name. I don't know.
I can't say it very well. He's a good friend of mine, but I still can't say that.
The chain is the strongest link. The weakest link? Well, this chain had all strong link in it. And BRAFA still progressing and progressing and progressing. And it will with someone like yourself who's going to write something to make your part of the world and the internet world. Oh, I've never heard of this. Oh, I've heard of this. Let's read it, you know?
Yeah.
BRAFA, apart from my children, BRAFA is the best thing I've ever done. Like the best work thing I've ever done. Like I'm so proud to be part of the telling of the story. I'm so proud of everyone that's come out of the woodwork to tell their little part of the story. Like Leon holds the story like from start to finish. He's the only one that can tell the story from start to finish. But it's been really interesting to meet other people who come and tell their little part of the story. So Cliff St. Lewis, he's in the video, the documentary video. He came to that with a little photograph of himself on the side of the stage at the gig. Like everyone's got another little part of the story. Raymond Dangarambisi was like the admin guy, the budgets and the finance. Like,
and can I say, the paper said 10,000 people there, was more like 30,000.
There you go.
Yeah. It's important to get those numbers correct.
It's important to get the numbers correct, but that's all we've got.
Right.
And also, the thing I was going to say was at one point we were just going to name it BRAFA Square, but we really, like, the thing that's missing from our public spaces, like all of those names, like Cassland Road in Hackney is named after Sir John Cass. Tyson Street is named after Tyson, both slave traders. No one knows that unless you go and look in the archive. If we just named BRAFA Square, who cares? Like, what does it mean? Like, who cares? So it became really important for there to be like an education program, a film. It became really important to have a pillar, this big pillar in the middle of the square with faces on it.
Yeah.
Like the faces of otherwise it just becomes that Leon, who cares about Leon? Like, who's Leon?
Right.
And his face is there forever. And that's so important because the children that go and visit the square from all over the world, Hackney's really diverse, can see themselves represented in that. Oh, look, this is what Caribbean migrants did when they came here. They did a whole live aid. Otherwise it's just names, more names in that street. So
I can back up sorry to interrupt what Emma's saying. Have you ever heard about the Great Wall that built around London to protect it from the outsiders?
I haven't.
No, there was a Great Wall that built around London.
Oh, the London Wall, yeah.
The London Wall. And while I was attending school in Jamaica and in the UK, it was taught to us that it was built by the Romans. Now, when you say the Romans, we're thinking of the museum in London. When you're walking, is the first statue you see. I can't pronounce his name. It's in the last 2 years that it's been revealed that this man is from Africa. He's an African emperor.
Wow.
Who the British for help, and he came and built the wall. He's as dark as night. You need flashlight to pick him up in the dark. Listen, it doesn't matter who built it. The fact that they try to hide it, it make it looks like we have not done anything for humanity or helped to create what we're living on today. Like all these inventions, you know, everything. And then you don't want to be who you are. I want to be like you because my race or gender or whatever it is, I've not contributed because that's the way it's written in the history book.
Right.
So what Emma Winch is talking about is that while I was in the center one day, some people asked me, friends, to take them there. About 30 of them, we went there. A lady from the school wanted to know if it's okay for them to just visit and do something on the project. I said, it's a public space. Anyone is welcome. You know what I'm saying? So imagine that's going to be there for the rest of time. And you can, the road is on Google Maps. You can find it from wherever you want to travel from, you know. So I'm very pleased. I hope you remember what you were talking about, Emma. Sorry to cut.
No, I was just going to say, have you gone onto Google Maps and had a look at the photos of it? Yeah. No.
I haven't. I've gone through a lot of the, I've gone through some Hackney Museum resources on YouTube and on Facebook, and I've gone through the Hackney newspaper reports as well, you know, so but I will go on Google Maps now and take a look at it. Yeah,
you just type in BRAFA Square and it comes up and there's photos of it, and yeah,
that'll be really cool. Yeah.
And if you Google my name, which I didn't know, my daughter told me about Clifford and everything come up.
Well, that's the thing. I just thought, worst case scenario, somebody will say, oh, I'm slamming the door in your face, or won't respond at all. But I read your name so many times, and I thought maybe I'll check out the Blackstone site and see if there's a way to get a hold of him. And I saw your email, and I thought, man, he's probably gonna think I'm a hack or whatever, but I'll try. And hopefully, and I was glad that you listened to my voice memo, because I wanted to explain that I wasn't just someone saying, Bob Geldof, nothing against, but just I wanted to. There's a whole real story that is not told.
Yeah.
But a lot of my people, they're like, well, let's talk about Queen's performance. Let's talk about this. And I'm like, well, this is, that was one day. That was a big concert. But that's one part of it, But that's not the whole, we're talking about what happened in Ethiopia, what this systemic government genocide, and this purposeful, we're going to spend 46% of our GDP this year on military instead of the suffering hundreds of thousands of children. You guys already know this shit, but stuff, sorry. But you guys already know all this, but it's like, this is, that was a big concert. That's what that was. But let's talk about the real story. And then, there are a lot of artists that the white crowd, the Western crowd approved of. Where are the African artists with ties to Africa? I was just like, where's the message? And so I wanted
the united human race. We didn't see that on the stage. And what I'm saying, I'm not hitting Bob Geldof or Major or any of the artists that perform, because the proof is in the pudding, and they did raise millions. But by doing so is a bit like I'm scratching your back to help you, but I can't help promoting myself because people have to watch. So 1 and 2 of the artists on there, if their record sales was down, that Band-Aid thing let it start to sell immediately. People got to buy the music again,
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that didn't feel good, that they didn't invite 1 or 2 or 3. So they're doing something for love, but they're not showing any love in humanity ways.
Yeah, it's performative love, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not true love. Guys, I'm going to have to go because I didn't realise the time. I've got to go and pick up my son.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for keeping you so long.
No, it's like, please don't apologise. It's a pleasure. I know on message in the chat. It's part of an ongoing project. There's loads of people still trying to find footage and photos. So those things might come to light. And as soon as they do, we can let you know.
Yes, absolutely.
We're still very much we're still trying to find a lot of stuff.
And even if they don't find anything, we're still going forward.
Yeah. Exactly. Keep me
have to
posted with everything. Yeah, okay. We'll talk to you later. Okay, all right, bye.
Yes, there's 1-to-1 now.
Yes, that's fine. But one thing, I'm really grateful that you're able to spend the time to talk, because another thing that it's, every 10 years they regurgitate the Live Aid story, and it would be one thing, I think, if Geldof and like you said, it's not, I don't want to put him down, but it's there. He continues to kind of double down on we were getting the biggest artists, but like you've said, these were huge artists that were excluded, that weren't even considered. So if somebody said, this was an oversight and we screwed up, like we should have done, then I would feel a little bit better about it, I think. But it's not. Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Bob Geldof, met him once. I don't think he knew who I was. In Portland Place near Radio 1, BBC.
Mm-hmm.
Him and me Joe were walking, and I was walking towards him. I said, "Hi, Bob," and he said, "Hi," and continue walking. He didn't know who I was. I think Bob has got a very strong personality.
He does.
Or if you don't, he'll tell you vitamin F.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah.
I mean, he's I saw him once on a TV show with a member of the Aswad band, Drummy, the one who played the drum.
Mm-hmm.
And Drummy was going on the TV about how great Bob Marley was, and Bob Marley inspired him. And he wouldn't stop. He was just yabbing, and Bob Geldof sit and said, "Excuse me, he's not fucking God, is he?"
Yeah, it's like, okay, buddy. Yeah. And I appreciate, he has an opinion and he's gonna tell you, and I get it. I get it.
It's live TV, so they couldn't mute it, and that's part of the red blood Irish in him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say what I want, talk what I want. But,
Yeah.
I don't know him personally. I only know that he has a group called that they sing "I Don't Like Monday."
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like Bob Geldof had a little notebook with all these artists that he moved around with, so did I.
Yeah.
So I could go around to where Dennis Brown was staying in London, knock on his door, come in, Leon.
Yeah.
Up to Johnny King. They all knew me, and we toured sometime together, past one another in the road and playing the same show. So it wasn't like a promoter phoning you to get you to do a gig and you tell them you want £1 million and you want half of it in advance, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
But I was playing the role of a fool, but I didn't know. Fool tread where wise men
Yeah.
because Ken Booth had a hit song called Everything I Own and Crying Over You. And the producer of that is Light Chalmers. And Johnny Nash, there are more questions and answer. And I said to Mr. Chalmers, Light Chalmers, can you do this? He says, how many artists? I said, about 20. That's the singers. No,
Right.
He says 20. He says, dealing with one is more than they can't do this.
Yeah.
You're trying to kill me. I had to take it on myself. Ken Kendricks, who's now known as Kareem, was conducting, and we all put our parts in. But officially, I'm the one who plant the seed in the ground to let the tree grow and bear all the fruits so everybody can get something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tell me about that. Tell me about your open air concert in Shoreditch. What was that like?
Okay, I'm going to give you a date where you can pin it down to.
Okay.
There was a boxer in England called Lloyd Hannigan.
Okay.
And Lloyd Hannigan was coming to the USA to fight the champion over there.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the sports media concerned, Lloyd, don't go. You're gonna get yourself killed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, don't bother to go to America. But on the night of the concert, he was there.
Yeah.
So I said, what are you doing here, Lloyd? You're supposed to be resting. You're going to fight.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I'm going to knock him out and bring back the title. And I said, yeah, fine, sure, mate.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That was
Divine intervention.
Yeah, he went. So what happened at that concert now? I can't remember. You must imagine I seen myself in something 40 years later and didn't recognize myself.
Yeah.
All the artists that was in the record was appearing at that show.
Yeah.
Apart from Dennis Brown, because he was on tour.
Right.
And everybody was playing free, all the money going to Save the Children funds. Very important. The person that we were connected with at Save the Children fund, her name was Sarah Winfield. She was the one that told us what we could do and what we couldn't do.
Okay.
We tried to find her. We can't find her neither. She probably retire or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the concert was attended by thousands of people. Thousands of people.
Wow.
And out of bad came good, because if Floyd never died in America, there wouldn't be a riot. And if the riot didn't take place, maybe somebody in the borough wouldn't have think of, let's highlight certain things. Wouldn't have taken place, That's why I told you about the wall. I'm thinking it's a Roman built. It was an African man that built it. You can go on Google and ask Google who built the Wall of London.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the way around London, 25 miles going around London to protect outsiders coming in. He's got one of these African names, take like 200 letters to spell.
But that's exactly the point, That's exactly the point. And it's just... Sorry, go ahead.
When Raymond was telling me his name, he goes, my name is Denga Rambisi. I said, what? It was like trying to start a car in a cold winter and doing First I met you, feel at home. Honestly, thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
Your personality come across.
I just am so, I'm really honored. You know, at this point, it just becomes two friends talking for the next, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And we go off on some tangents that are a little not germane to this conversation. But before we hung up, Leon told me about some kind of combined words he likes to use. And one of them he likes to use, and it's not that it's hate, but sometimes it sounds like hate, and appreciate. So he says that he likes to say appreciate love. Like, I appreciate love taking the time to speak with you. And I just thought that that was really sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate love you spending your time with me.
I appreciate love.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Respect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Seriously.
All right, respect.
All right.
Love.
Bye.
Thank you.
The Hackney Museum and Hackney Council is still diligently looking for more information on the concert at Shoreditch on May 26, 1986. If you were there, if you have any information on it, any photos, newspaper clippings, especially if you have video footage, please email archives@hackney.gov.uk.
Well, there are many things we could intervene and involve ourselves in. Perhaps the world we live in is not as perfect as we would like it to be. I'm so proud of the British reggae artists themselves. They responded and they came together, and it happened in Hackney.
So here's BRAFA Square right here. I'm not sure if we're... Oop, that's not what we wanted. So let's take a look and see. Okay, so BRAFA Square is like right here. Here, go forward a little bit. Whoop. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Okay. So it looks like there's a little bit of a construction situation. Thanks, Google Maps. See, look, you go there and it's like, okay. And then you go up here and it's like, nope. A little bit of a construction situation. But here's BRAFA Square right there. Oh my goodness. Isn't that cool? Okay. So if we go back, we can see more photos of it here. This is actually put up by Emma here. Look at these photos. Wow. Look at that sunset. Here's Leon right here from Hackney Museum. Wow. It is really beautiful there. And then if we look here, there's some more information here. Let's see here. Like, here's a better picture of it. We've gone through all of this, obviously, but this is the live stream. You can watch it. I've watched it. It's an hour and a half, but here are some nice photos from that day. Wow. Isn't that lovely? Hang on. I should make this a little bit smaller, shouldn't I? Here we go. Oh. Oh, look at the puppy. Okay, sorry. Immediately going for the dog here. Wow, look at this. And this, I asked Leon who drew this, but it was some of the school kids that were singing for this, which I just thought was great. And all that animation in the music video also is drawn from the kids. It's just really neat. Look at this. That is a cool outfit. Damn. This is so neat. These people work so hard to be part of this. Wow. So I guess that's, I mean, it's obviously not comparable to actually seeing it in real life, but being able to have these things here and everything is linked. So you can see everything that I'm showing you right now. Oh, here's some, oh, damn, continue without supporting. I don't want to go to the Flickr thing here, but here's from the opening ceremony as well. Oh, that's great. Wow. Sorry, I know I'm not saying anything, but this is just so everybody can kind of take a look at the photos and see what's going on. Here's Emma. There's Emma right there. She's probably going to be so mad that I pointed her out. She said she hates photos of herself. Hive Studio, that's where this was, where the song was recorded. Oh my gosh. This is so neat. It's a long time coming, you know? Tony Douglas here. And all of this was during COVID, so it was like especially difficult to make all of this happen. So it's really quite... There's Emma again. Sorry, Emma. I mean, that's Leon right there, obviously. But Emma's gonna be... Anyway, if she watches this, she's going to be like, oh my God. There's Leon again. Sorry. But yeah, no, this is really exciting, and it really is just something that is good to talk about, and I'm glad that we were, here's the photo that we used in the slide. But I'm just really grateful that I was able to speak with them and to learn more about BRAFA Square, and I hope that everyone who was here to watch this kind of got the same vibe that I did, and you know, hear the story, the real story, and the pride behind it, and the recognition that these people so deserved and have deserved for the last 40 years, you know, and being able to have these people here and their families here for those that have passed on is really exceptional. So I think we should all be really proud of them and happy and grateful. Oh, look at this. There's jeans. But yeah, so this is kind of the best we could do without actually going to visit. And I'm grateful for all of these resources. Of course, they're all going to be available in the description.
Well, there are many things we could intervene and involve ourselves in. Perhaps the world we live in is not as perfect as we would like it to be. I'm so proud of the British reggae artists themselves. They responded, and they came together, and it happened in Hackney.
I'm so grateful and humbled that Leon and Emma were willing to discuss this with me. I'm grateful that Hackney has immortalized BRAFA in everything that they've done and continue to do. The Hackney Museum team is working diligently to find out more about that open air concert, and if there's more that comes to light or a possible documentary in the works, I'll be sure to update you guys in the community posts of my channel. Part 4. 17 of 70 and 0 apologies. The Live Aid Blacklist.
You want to say that? And I said, yes, I do want to say that.
I said, there's no way. I'm not singing it. Tonight, thank God, it's them instead of you. I said, I can't sing it. I don't I just can't sing that line.
Like the voices that might be listening to the radio right now that are critical of Live Aid, that are critical of Band-Aid for a bunch of reasons, for white saviorism, for the lack of African acts, for whether it did any good.
The argument changes as time goes on, as society changes, as economies change, as the politics change. So new arguments come to the fore. What people can't accept is the simplicity of Band-Aid and Live Aid. Give us some money and we'll keep people going. It's really simple. So what's the argument? Things like progressive, in inverted commas, new ideas are largely, abstract when you're dealing with the distended stomachs and the soundless agony of death by starvation. I've done this for 40 years. I've travelled the continent backwards. I've done endless documentaries about the culture and the dynamism and the language and the politics and the governance and the this, that and the other. It's odd. It sounds like I'm up my own ass saying this. I'm an expert. Literally I consult with governments and stuff like that. It's weird. I'm much more interested in the Boomtown Rats upcoming tour in the UK, much more interested. I'm more interested in the double album we've coming out in March and then the single album we've coming out. Much more. That's all I want to bloody talk about. But if you want to talk about nonsense like white saviorism and absolute nonsense like that, it's funny now, but it's just irritating when it gets in the way of trying to help others.
I still couldn't quite and can't get past how there was such an emphasis on a Beatle reunion for Live Aid, when the Beatle who's done this before made a blueprint that firstly put Indian Bengali artists in the front while Band-Aid left all the artists behind. I still can't now.
Sentiment changes, sensibility changes, opinions change, theory changes over 40 years, and that's correct. You can't stay static.
No, of course not.
And you've got to find different ways of combating these issues and different ways of talking about them. And what we're celebrating here, and none of these arguments will get any oxygen if Band-Aid didn't come out.
Look at this board. Hang on. Okay. Look at this board. Look at all the names on this board. There are 70 artists, 70 acts, to be clear. 13 of them are Black folks, people of color, or include Black folks and people of color in their act. Have to interrupt because I made a couple of mistakes. Even I am human. This is the list as I have it of Black artists that were on stage. Sade, The Four Tops, Billy Ocean, Ashford and Simpson, Tina Turner, Patti LaBelle, Santana, who had Black artists on stage, Run DMC, Lionel Richie and Dionne Warwick for only the finale of the US broadcast, Kool and the Gang, who submitted a recording, Prince, who submitted a recording, B.B. King via satellite, Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin of The Temptations, Tina Turner, and Teddy Pendergrass. That would be 17 out of 70. A couple of these performances are not their own acts standing on their own. For instance, Santana, Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin, and Tina Turner was with Mick Jagger. So take that as you will. There were a few other artists, I believe, that popped in during the finale of the US number, which would have been 3:55 a.m. in the UK, 10:55 p.m. in the US. No artists from Ethiopia were involved. No artists from Africa were involved.
Richard Skinner here talking to you live from Wembley Stadium, where a very important announcement is about to be made.
During the June 10th, 1985 press conference announcing who was performing, only 4 of the 50 acts named were Black. Stevie Wonder, Sade, Billy Ocean, and the Two Temptations, who would perform with Hall & Oates. If they are not on the list, you can draw your own conclusions, Geldof said. Now what the fuck is that supposed to mean? There were no African artists chosen or performing in 2005's Live 8. So are we still drawing the same conclusions, Bob?
We went to all of the major black acts who were popular at that time, and they all said no. But we couldn't explain that to people.
Here's from Rolling Stone. A day later, that's June 11th, 1985, another press conference was held, this time at City Hall in Philadelphia. Bill Graham, Larry Magrid, and Mayor W. Wilson Goode fielded questions. Georgie Woods, a WDAS AM radio personality and concert promoter, was furious about Geldof's comment the previous day. Demanded Woods, "Are you saying black artists won't perform?" Restraining his notoriously volatile temper, Graham explained that every major black artist who had participated in We Are the World recording session, as well as every major black artist on the Billboard Top 200 and R&B chart, had been approached. What he didn't go on to say was if they had said no, why? We still get murky answers on that.
Complaints that a lot of some black performers were not as involved in this whole production as there should have been. In fact, only 10% were black performers. Any reason for that?
Well, we
I
asked.
think that's way off.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, we asked everybody. I mean, we asked Michael Jackson, we asked Lionel Richie, we asked Diana Ross, we asked Prince, we asked
You
the
asked
biggest stars.
everyone. Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit more from this Rolling Stone article. And yeah, some of this stuff may become repetitive, but I would say that this is really summarizing that party line. Several major black artists, including Rick James, Philip Bailey, Run DMC, and Dionne Warwick, apparently had not been invited. Nonetheless, Geldof had been in touch with most black superstars and had been turned down. He started calling me regularly in May when he was finding that there was difficulty getting the key black acts, said Ken Cragen, who manages Lionel Richie, organized the We Are the World session, and serves as the president of USA for Africa. He was very frustrated. What I told him, which is the truth, Bob, I would be more than happy to help you with that, but I've had considerable difficulty getting anybody to turn out for stuff myself. Everybody is kind of acting like they already gave. Geldof also asked producer Quincy Jones to use his influence. Jones, in turn, put 2 employees on the case full-time, contacting managers, lawyers, and artists. But the media continued to press the issue, causing Graham and Geldof to intensify their search for black performers. The Four Tops were subsequently added to the bill, as were Patti LaBelle, Tina Turner, Teddy Pendergrass, and Ashford and Simpson. Kool and the Gang and Prince both contributed videos. And when Graham learned that Run DMC, the most popular rap group in America, had offered to play but had been turned down by someone in his New York office, he called the group's manager the next day and added them to the show. Yet the scarcity of black superstars couldn't be ignored. Aretha Franklin, Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, why aren't they doing it? Wondered Richard Walters of the Norby Walters Agency, which books many black acts. The question is, why are the artists not supporting it? Any individual artist can get on a plane and put himself there. It's the easiest thing in the world. They don't have to bring their band if their band's not available. Just their presence is important. There was no single answer to the question. Everyone had a reason. Diana Ross was on tour, unavailable. Same for the Pointer Sisters. Donna Summer was in the studio. Michael Jackson? He's totally immersed in a couple of heavy projects, said Norm Winter, his publicist. He's got major commitments that he can't get out of. He'd like to have done the show, but it's impossible. Couldn't he fly in to sing a duet with Jagger or McCartney? He could join forces with Paul McCartney, agreed the publicist. He and Paul work very well together. Okay, sorry. Just the writing on the wall. But he has other commitments. Lars has to be fair, so annoying before we get into the juicy bits. There were issues with the promoter in the US, Bill Graham, one of the promoters in the US. Bill Graham was definitely looking at this production as a concert. Of course, everyone else working on this is kind of looking at this as a TV show, TV program, like a broadcast. Bill Graham is not working very hard to get artists on the list. In fact, this is what he said about getting some of these acts.
He said, this show can't happen. And he said, do you see all those bits of paper on my desk? I said, yeah, I've been looking at those. He said, well, those are all of the artists that could play at Philadelphia. He said, I refuse to work with half of these people. I said to him, well, there's a lot of bits of paper. What about the other half? And he looked at me and said, they refuse to work with me.
So I don't have that specific list, but who's to say that anyone on there wasn't black? I'm sure that there were some people they're not interested in working with this guy. He sounds like he was a bit of a difficult personality. To disregard the issues in getting anyone to play on the U.S. stage, including artists that dropped out due to dealing with Bill Graham, would be disingenuous. I mean, there's no way that this didn't impact at least some of the Black Act attendance or people of color in general. There has to be. This guy sucked. I mean, you know, I'm sure he was good at his job, but he sucked for this particular position.
Popping band Huey Lewis and the News suddenly pulled out.
Mysteriously, we would get withdrawals. We dug into it and found, as I said, there were interest groups who were calling artists, actually telling them not to participate.
A lot of black artists were concerned about being tokenized or exploited. According to the Live Aid Across the World documentary, there was a vote amongst black artists against getting involved in this project.
In America, there was an agenda that was in a way bought from their Band Aid record of that community of black acts committing or not, and it was like a block vote. Unfortunately, the block vote sort of went against the Philadelphia show from the black artist community.
There's a history of exploitation of black people just in the U.S., well, just in general. And USA for Africa was repeatedly introduced and minimized as the sister organization of Band Aid.
I'm very pleased to announce today that as Band Aid's first part of their relief program comes to an end, and as our younger sister USA for Africa begin their relief program today, Band Aid start the second part of their program by announcing Live Aid.
And therefore probably relegated, at least in the public view, to the back seat, like the little second baby.
They didn't want to be superseded, I don't think, USA for Africa, by something they thought was in effect a Band-Aid enterprise.
Whether or not there was a vote, I mean, hell, I wasn't there. I don't know. It sounds a little conspiratorial to me. I don't know. I feel like if there was a vote, wouldn't Tina Turner be in on it? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Anyway.
There was a spin put out that that's what was going on. You're either being used, or people are going to make a lot of money off you, or it's not going to happen.
I saw Daryl McDaniels of Run DMC talking about performing at Live Aid, and he said they were extremely nervous to perform.
It was this, we didn't want to do it. Let's back up some. Okay. We was on the Fresh Fest tour, and we was in, where was we that night? I forgot what town we was in. We get a call, tomorrow morning you got to get up and you got to go perform at Live Aid. Nope. Nope. What are y'all trying to do? Nope, you ain't getting us in trouble. Nope.
He also said something else. We didn't think they wanted us.
What are y'all trying? You're playing a trick on us? Like, they don't want us there. Like, it was one of those things. But then Russell screamed at us, yo, MIFers, y'all got to go. Joey, get your ass up, this and that. So we went. So we got there that morning, and we saw how huge it was. So truth be told, we was nervous. When they said it's time for us to go on, your instinct just go and do what you know you do. So that's what we did. We just went and did what we had to do, man. But it was scary. We scared to death.
I can see why back in 1985, there hadn't been much introspection on internalized and systemic racism. But over the last 40 years, all Geldof and the other organizers have done is double down, except for Andy Kershaw, who we heard from before. They've quietly increased black artists on their remixes of the tune every 10 years or so, but still black artists lacked in Live 8. They've quietly increased the input of black artists on documentaries. Lionel Richie was a large, looming figure in the culture of the 80s, and he's been centered quite a lot. Patti LaBelle. I mean, hell yeah. I mean, I get chills thinking about her being on that stage.
My manager said, would you like to do Live Aid? When they said it was in Philly, I said, wow. Don't even ask me silly questions. You know, who wouldn't want to do that?
Many other participants are no longer here with us, but there is a retelling of this story every anniversary. So where were they before they were gone? Surely they could have spoken to us when they were still here. I fell down a rabbit hole of live performances a couple weeks ago. I don't know when a couple weeks ago was when I wrote this, by the way. That was probably somewhere in September. And it's all because of the Proclaimers. Because my dumbass is like, man, they should have been in on this. When did their viral hit come out? Yeah, Lars Land with the reasonable expectations over here. They were at Live 8. Take a look, take a look, take a look. But they truly have remained extremely consistent in their live performances. It's in my dead video folder, but I was going to cover it once upon a time before a certain band took over this place. Oh my god, I've marked 2 of those off of there. Look at me doing shit. Back to the rabbit hole. On my way down that rabbit hole, we run into Radiohead and Weezer. And finally, I stumble across Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise performance on Conan. Look at this. He's here. Right there. He hasn't changed anything about himself. He's authentic. He's backed up beautifully with LV and a boys' choir. All of this participation, so real, so perfect. Why couldn't something like this be at Live Aid?
If they can't understand it, how can they reach me?
Listen to that, because here's the thing. This is why we needed Make Africa Green Again, because he's saying, if they don't understand, then how can they reach me? And you're watching this, I mean, and obviously it would be harder to hear when you're at Live Aid, right? But it's chills, and you're thinking, we should try to reach each other. You know, we should. I mean, I wasn't watching this in 95. I was watching Rugrats or whatever, but like Barney. but we should be trying to reach each other. How are you going to get that message if these people aren't even on the docket? They're barely showing up. That's why I listen to a lot of rap. I listen to more, people will ask me like, what kind of stuff do you listen to? I listen to a lot of rap, and I feel like there's so much vulnerability and honesty in rap. You know, I'm not talking about like booty, 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 rocking everywhere. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about rap, you know, and it's like, not the objectification, but this honesty here is particularly in like gangster rap, diss tracks. I love hieroglyphics. If we're talking about Del the Funky Homo Sapien, like these kinds of rappers that are talking to us. And I mean, NWA, that's like a pretty classic example. These are people that really should have been, I mean, NWA wasn't really a thing in 85, but like they're still, you know, doing DJs at like little clubs. But this is the kind of, you know, and what we have Santana talking and not really going along the party line of playing the big hits, but we needed this kind of messaging here. We needed this. We needed BRAFA. We needed BRAFA. Groups, as Leon said, that were already talking about Africa. Crazy. Tell me that Live Aid wouldn't have benefited from this. These acts, this depth of meaning existed in 1985. And saying that it didn't in the UK or in the US, but in the UK is so dismissive and just so privileged, and we're supposed to just accept it. And I just refuse to accept it. We needed this kind of messaging, and obviously this is 10 years too late, but we needed this here, somewhere. Something like this was on Conan O'Brien's talk show, the only person in the history of man who is paler than me. What's the holdup? A little less crass than Andy Kershaw. I believe it falls somewhere between the blindness of white supremacy, a station that we all live under and are obligated to work against, and those well-worn National Geographic spreads Bob spent several pages detailing back in chapter 2. There's no amount of watching children die while hearing a flimsy single thanking the Lord above that it's not you, that will change the objectification so ingrained in childhood. It doesn't happen like that. Bob Geldof hadn't done the work then. He hasn't done the work now. But as long as we're above ground, it's not too late.
My sweet Lord. My Lord. My Lord. But it takes so long, my Lord. My sweet Lord.
It's one of the proudest moments of my life personally. I don't think I've done a few things in life, but this is the biggest without a doubt, because the cause that we did it for, so it's the greatest thing. And I've got to say, I've got to give a lot of credit to Mr. Lee and Life. I really do.
I would like to thank my gold passport holders for tolerating my insanity and helping me see my rheumatologist. Thank you. James, Julian, Pete S., Pete L., Jody, Al, CB, Greg, Steve, Caleb, Ann, Kyle, Shitpost Botman, Ashley, Taylor, Iridescent Gems, Russell, Matthew, W. Tyler, Angel, Front Penny, Debesh, Tim, VT, Dan, Pam, Christopher, Joe, Alec, Elena, Charles, Awkward Yogi, Red, McKenna, Sophia, Dan, Doc, Hotel Wi-Fi, nice, Bernie, Alex, Clint, Alice, Charlotte, Lady, Nope, Gareth Down Under, Mac, Allison, Matt, Violet, Serena, Tori Terrors, Emily, Leaps, The Bee, and Chris. I love you guys.